ladies and gentlemen, inflation is burning hot in the United States. It just came in today, man. Do you guys think that this is going to continue? Because I sure as heck do. So let's take a look at what came in today. This inflation is going to be hot, but it has huge benefits for the Americans, which I'm going to get to a little bit later. So US inflation slows to 6% annual rate amid looming banking crisis. I know it says slows to 6% is kind of a joke, right? So prices in February were 6% higher than a year ago, down from an annual rate of 6.4% in January and significantly lower than the 9.1% peak of inflation in June last year. Okay, well, it should be better, right? Because you've raised the interest rates to the moon. Between January and February, though, with all the work that they did, prices rose 0.4% as prices increased in sectors including housing and food. Well, that's not so good. Continuation of downturn trend in the 12-month inflation rate, the core prices, which exclude volatile food and energy, you guys know that I have serious beef with that because show me a human being that does not eat any food, does not burn any electricity and or drive a car or take public transit. So they're using some form of fuel, right? And so we want to look for these mythical humans who don't poop and don't use any gas, don't need to stay warm. Okay. Drive me crazy. Food also saw a high increase, reaching 10.2% inflation over the past year. Oh my goodness, absolutely unbelievable. So if you go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics in the United States, you can read their consumer price index summary. Now, if we're going to be looking in this column over here for February 23, very few things are down at all. We see energy because it's fuel oil and energy services are down right here, but pretty much everything else is up. But remember, energy is very controlled by OPEC. Not much we can do about that. So unadjusted for the 12-month survey, if you look here, all items, it says 6%, but food is 9.5, 10.5. It's high. You see here, electricity is up 12%. Unbelievable, this type of inflation. Transportation up 14%. Here are some things that I jumped out at me. Non-alcoholic beverages increased 1% in February. Of course, transporting drinks, something heavy, uses a lot of oil. Very expensive. Index for fruits and vegetables increased 0.2% in February. Same thing. Fuel is their main hit. The index for eggs fell 6.7%, but that was to be expected. Why would it not fall? They had to cull millions of birds to prevent the spread of disease. And so it takes time for new birds to be hatched and for them to become to maturity where they can start laying eggs. So that started right away. We were expecting this. No big surprises here. Full service meals increased 0.6%. Yes, that's a big problem. Wage spiral is happening. Wages are going up. I do have a big issue with people always talking about wage spiral because we're still negative. People are still going back. Now, according to their numbers, they say that everyone has an average of 5% pay increase. Now, after all the people that I talked to, I'm not seeing that 5% increase. I'm wondering if you are. Please leave a comment below if you are. But even if you were making 5%, even if it's still not keeping up with inflation, so you're still falling back. And I'm kind of tired of hearing from the United States and from Canada both saying to you that if it's your patriotic duty, you're not going to ask for a raise. It's a patriotic duty as a business owner not to pay more money. Kind of makes me mad. Listen, they're passing the buck. The buck is the government is printing a lot of money. They're the ones causing the problem. So how about you stop printing money? Maybe. Is that crazy? All right, you guys. So that's the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now, you guys know that I work out of Canada, but I use a lot of US data because of this. So if we go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics as well, we want to look at their employment, which is the other part that they look at to judge the interest rates. So their unemployment rate is at 3.6%, record lows, 5.9 million people. It even edged up in February. So the United States is facing these same troubles that Canada is facing because Canada, almost everyone is employed, same as the United States. Canada has super high inflation, same as the United States, but we're now diverging about how we're going to deal with it. In Canada, if you go to Bank of Canada, it proudly states that 5.9% of money. I keep laughing because it says that we are here to preserve the value of money. Preserve the value of money. Okay, you have had crazy inflation. So obviously you're not doing a good job at that. But so Canada has super high inflation and our jobs report are just as bad as the United States, if not worse. So our last one, it came in at 21,000 jobs in February. Remember, we're 1/10 the size of the United States. So if you're going to adjust for that, it'd be 210,000 jobs in the United States, which would be really bad. But remember that we were only expecting 10,000. So we're way out of whack. We don't know what they're doing here as well. well. So look at how Canada deals with this rate. This is where the Americans are going to have a benefit like no other. The Bank of Canada decided to pause rates. They're not raising rates anymore. Wah, wah, wah. Big, big problems for Canada by doing that. So Canada decides to pause rates. That's stupid. And the United States, if we go to the 1 year, they just keep on raising the rates, raising the rates, raising the rates over and over and over again. Now we're coming up to a time for the United States to decide what they're going to do with inflation. But let's go back 1 year on the Canada dollar to the United States dollar. We can see that we're in some serious doo-doo. 73 cents on the dollar. Now, if we go back, of course, there's always fluctuations in the dollar. If you go all the way back and look at the max, there is fluctuations. Of course, when the United States had their GFC, our dollar became close to par for a little while. But like that's a long way ago. So if we just look in the past 12 months, our dollar has dropped from a peak of 80 cents all the way down to 73 cents. That's 7% difference. Now, a lot of people are going to say to you that 7%, what is 7%? That doesn't change very much. Well, 7% on trillions of dollars is a lot. In Canada, we export raw goods, oil, lumber, whatever. The United States processes a lot of our oil. It processes a lot of our lumber. We just sell the base stuff. We don't actually finish it. And we buy a lot of the stuff back from the United States. So when you look at it, I think Canada imports 750 billion. But if you add 7% to that, it's going to be like $50 billion added on top of that. And so your $50 billion now has to get divided up on every Big Mac that you buy, every light bulb, every meal that you take out. 50 billion more high inflation. So Canada is shooting themselves in the foot. So I understand that that quarter point jump adds a typical house like $150 on their payment. So they're like, don't worry, you guys, we're saving you $150 by not raising the rates on that. But on the flip side, now your gas, everything else you buy, your food, everything else is going to go up $150. You're taking money out of one pocket to the other. Okay. Let's just call a spade a spade. Why can't we just be adults and talk about this? But where is the winner? So Canada is going to suffer. We buy everything from the States, right? We got to pay that extra 50 bill a year just to buy the same amount of stuff. Okay. That hurts. Where do Americans win? Americans now can come to Canada and buy stuff 8% cheaper than they even did last year. That spread is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, where the Americans have even more advantage to come to Canada and buy more stuff. So if you're an American, you want to come to Canada, you watching that dollar falls, meaning that your American dollar, you could buy more and more and more stuff with it. Cheaper vacations, cheaper stuff. It's a good win-win for you guys. For Canadians who are exporting to the United States, they're going to see a bump in business because now all of a sudden it's 7-8% cheaper for the Americans to buy from Canadians. So they're taking it all out. So if you're exporting from Canada, it's a win. If you're importing to Canada, it's a loss. Canadians going down to the States to visit as tourists really, really hurts them. Americans coming to Canada, really, really big win. So we're going to see this continue to play out. And so there's always going to be winners and losers. It doesn't matter what industry, what business, whatever that's out there. Remember, governments, we were talking a lot about them today, bailing out all of these banks that have been very, very poor with their money management. At the end of the day, governments don't make money. They just take it from one person and give it to another person. So you have to align your businesses and align your life so that you're going to not pay as much away and you're going to get more in return. And so just follow those tax guides that are out there because they're going to help you. You know, Tom Wheelwright is the best at that, learning how to reduce your taxes very, very low and for you to get a lot of those subsidies. These governments are making massive, massive decisions, right? So they're going to hurt importers and benefit exporters, right? They've drawn that line and that's how it goes. So make sure that you're watching these massive policy moves. And remember, as these banks are going to get bailed out, there's this massive cost to society, huge money printing, even though they're saying that it's not a bill. They don't want to use that word. It is, no matter how you slice it. And so no matter what, it's going to come at massive inflation to people. People are always going to be the ones that pay for it, taxpayers. And so big inflation is going to come. So how are you going to play that? You have to make sure that you're paying attention to that. Make sure that you are preparing for 10% inflation for the next 5 years just to be safe. Now, of course, there's going to be a crush in demand as these interest rates stay high for a lot longer than we expected. That will crush demand, bring prices home, right? But if you have high inflation coming, that will neutralize the crushing of the demand. Stay safe, my friends. If this helps you at all, please remember to like and subscribe to it. Please send it to your friends. We really, really, really appreciate it. Thanks for supporting the channel. We'll talk to you guys soon.